Okay, we are currently reading the very stressful and strife-filled ending of Red Mars. Everything's gone to shit. Nobody's happy. Terrorists are blowing up the bubble domes and crashing comets, and they just cut the space elevator. They literally, like, I don't know how to demonstrate. Where is my string? I don't know. Okay, I guess I have some tinsel. Okay, imagine this is the space elevator, and they cut the string, and it just flew off into space. Just like that. And there were people on it, okay? There were people on it. Mostly UN fucking policemen, but still, that and Peter or something. I don't remember his name. Anne's boyfriend was on the space elevator, probably. They don't know if he's dead. Maybe he got out in time. Phyllis, in better news, Phyllis might have been on the space elevator, so at least so we might have got one. But, and to be serious, any of us could have been on that space elevator. It's very sad. But, the revolution is in full force. And, you could say, like that's the price of revolution. But I don't think anybody even agrees on what is going on. I have no idea what's going on. I don't think anybody has any idea what's going on. And I think everyone just thinks, whatever they support, they're supporting it for their own reasons. And it's chaos. We are currently reading this from the perspective of Nadia, which is perfect because Nadia is one of my favorite people. And she's a great construction engineer, construction worker. What's it called? I don't know what her... I don't know. Construction worker slash engineer slash jack of all trades. The most important person on Mars, basically. Because she literally built half of Mars, and the other half that she didn't build was inspired by work that she does, so that's the kind of great person Nadia is. She's also an enlightened centrist, and I think it's been great to read this from her perspective because I really relate to a lot of it in our current Earth state, she's just like, why are they blowing everything up? Like, this is so stupid. She thinks both sides are stupid. She is devastated that pretty much everything they've done on Mars has been undone for one reason or another, and she's just like, I don't know, it's pretty great. Like, I like that we're just in her perspective, She doesn't have any idea why any of this is happening, and she's just upset that they're blowing up all of her bridges. And she's also literally, common law married / actually married to Arcady, who is pretty much the leader of the fucking revolution. Well, one of the revolutions. I don't know, he's one of many cult leaders on Mars currently. And he might have died. He would love that they blew up the space elevator. Probably. I don't know. But, you know what I mean. I just want you to get a gist of, what kind of guy Arcady is. He's, definitely he's like a communist, libertarian, anarchist. He's a real zany guy, very charismatic. I love him. The worst. I love Arcady. Arcady is my favorite character. Commie libertarian? It's only because of your, you've been brainwashed into thinking that those things are mutually exclusive. Anyways, I love Arcady, but I'm worried he's becoming unhinged in his later years. But we'll never know because he was apparently inside of a bubble dome, and we saw a piece from his perspective. Oh, it switched to Arcady perspective after John got assassinated. So after John died, we read about Arcady, and Arcady really loved John. And it literally made me like cry, like almost cry, because Arcady was really friends with John, and he was like really sad when John died, and then it was all about Arcady's perspective. And then the last thing we read from Arcady was him watching the dome over the city that he was in pop, and then the air ignited. And he watched as his own arm burst into flame because the oxygen in the air caught on fire. And then that was the end of the chapter. And now we are reading as Nadia, who does not know if her boyfriend is dead, and she's watching the ravages of the multiple protests and revolutions and general chaos that is going on Mars. And where we left off last was they sabotaged the space elevator, which was basically a piece of tubing that extended to an asteroid in orbit. So it was locked in orbit. It was geostationary, I guess. I don't know the word for it, but it was locked in orbit in one spot on Mars with a counterweight that is an asteroid / spaceport. And basically what they did is they blew up, and they by the use of explosives, they cut the cable, and the asteroid flew off into space before you could even blink. So the space station is gone, and the space elevator fucking fell to Earth, or fell to Mars, and just like with the force of an atomic bomb that is 30,000 kilometers long, lengthwise. Imagine a rubber band snapping all the way around the equator. I think the cable actually wraps around the whole, the cable was actually long enough to wrap around the whole fucking planet. So basically Mars has a new equator line. And anyone who was around to see the cable actually falling is dead. Because it was a massive, long boy kinetic bomb. Yeah. So that was pretty intense. And because they're in like this kind of revolutionary, anarchistic period, all radio transmissions have been scrambled or cut off, or anything you can imagine, pretty much. There is no communication between Mars and Earth right now. They just blew up the fucking elevator, which was a big part of the economy of Mars, because they were able to get stuff off of Mars and to Mars. They were transporting people and materials back and forth along that cable, and that's gone. All the radio transmission has been killed, both between Mars and Earth, and also on the ground. On the ground, there are people like scrambling communications and sabotaging them. And Nadia and Anne they met a group of people who were survivors of a lot of this shit. Not the cable, but like a lot of survivors from the cities that got blown up. Nadia and Anne stumbled upon a certain group. Oh my god, and they flooded. They punctured an aquifer and like flooded, like the scale of these things is unimaginable. There's an ocean on Mars now because some of the terrorists punctured or somehow opened up an underground aquifer and literally let out an underground ocean that is now on top of the ground. Or, it's now an overground ocean. So a lot of people died there. A lot of new lakefront property opening up, though. And anyways, so then Nadia and Anne and a bunch of the other first 100, like a group of like 6 of the first 100, they're traveling around and they're helping people and they're trying to save people and they're trying to fix things. Like mostly they're just going around and they're setting up robot crews to like repair bridges, to start building facilities again that have been destroyed. And eventually they stumble upon a group of refugees that are surviving somewhere, and they go and hang out with them, and everyone's like really excited that they're there. They're like, wow, you're part of the first 100. That's so cool. And then they start taking a bunch of drugs, and they're like, welcome, friends. We're celebrating. Today is a great day. It's 14th the 14th. And then they all turn to the TV as the radio and broadcast channels all turn to the same image. And everywhere on Mars this is being broadcast. They undo the radio scrambling or whatever, and they show an image on the TV of Clark. Clark is the asteroid that the space station space elevator is attached to. And then they show the destruction of Clark, which is basically like it's there one moment and then it like fucking flies off the screen in half a second because they cut the cable. And then everybody watched it, and then all of the people they were with started celebrating. And Anne was like, oh my god, my boyfriend might have been on that. And yeah. Let's go. Well, Sachs said, now we've got an equator just like the one I thought Earth had when I was 4 years old. A big black line running around the planet. Anne glared at Sachs so bitterly that Nadia worried she would get up and hit him. But none of them moved. The images on the TV flickered, and the speakers hissed and crackled. They saw the new equator line in person, the southernmost one anyway, on the second night of their flight toward Shalbatana Vallis. In the dark, it was a broad, straight, black swath leading them west. Excuse me. As they flew over it, Nadia stared down somberly. A bridge brought down. And bringing down a bridge was always a dubious proposition. And that black line was also a grave. Not many people on the surface had been killed, except on the east side of Pavonis. But most, if not all, of those on the elevator must have been. And that in itself meant several thousand people. Most of whom had probably been all right up until their part of the cable hit the atmosphere and burned up. As they flew over the wreckage, Sachs intercepted a new video of the fall. Somebody had already stitched up a chronological montage from all the images that had been sent onto the net live or in the hours immediately afterward. In this montage, a very effective bit of work, the final clip was of the last section of the cable exploding into the landscape. The impact zone was never anything but a moving white blob, like a flaw in the tape. No video was capable of registering such an illumination. But as the montage continued, the images had been slowed down and processed in every way possible. And one of those processed images was the final clip. An ultra slow motion shot in which one could see details that would have been impossible to spot live. And so they could see that as the line had crossed the sky, the burning graphite had stripped away at first, leaving an incandescent double helix of diamond, flowing majestically out of a sunset sky. All a gravestone, of course. The people on it already dead at that point, burned away. But it was hard to think of them when the image was so utterly strange and beautiful. A vision of some kind of fantasy DNA. DNA from a macro world made of pure light, plowing into our universe to germinate a barren planet. Nadia stopped watching the TV, moved into the co-pilot's seat to help spot the other plane. All that long night, she stared out the window, unable to sleep, unable to get the image of that diamond descent out of her mind's eye. It was the longest night of their trip so far for her. It seemed a kind of eternity before dawn. But time passed, another night of their lives, and at last dawn came. Oh, and thank you, everybody. Oh, and Bold X, thank you for 3 months and a tier 3. And why is Valorant gifting 5 subs? Oh, Signal Focus, thank you for 20 gifted subs. God bless. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Valorant. Have a good night. But time passed, another night of their lives, and the dawn came. Soon after sunrise, they landed at a pipeline service airstrip above Shalbatana and stayed with a group of refugees who had been working on the pipeline and were now caught there. This group had no political stance in common and wanted only to survive until things got back to normal. Nadia found their attitude only partly refreshing and tried to get them to go out and repair pipelines. But she did not think they were convinced. That evening, they took off once more, again laden with the supplies given to them by their hosts. And the following dawn, they landed on the abandoned airstrip of Car Crater. Before 8, Nadia and Sax and Anne and Simon and Sasha and Yelly were out in walkers and up to the crater rim. The dome was gone. There had been a fire below. Oh shit, is this where Arcady died? I did not just accidentally glance at the last sentence. I didn't see anything. I didn't just accidentally glance at the last... Okay, this is where Arcady died, I think. Before 8, Nadia and Sax and Anne and Simon and Sasha and Yelly were out in walkers and up to the crater rim. The dome was gone. There had been a fire below. All the buildings were intact but scorched. And almost all their windows had been broken or melted. Plastic walls were bent or deformed. Concrete was blackened. There were splashes of soot scattered everywhere. And piles of soot scattered here and there on the ground. Little heaps of blackened carbon. Sometimes they looked like Hiroshima shadows. Yes, they were bodies. The outlines of people trying to claw down through the sidewalks. The city's air was hyper-oxygenated, Sachs ventured. In such an atmosphere, human skin and flesh were combustible and flammable. That was what had happened to those early Apollo astronauts. Stuck in a test capsule filled with an atmosphere of pure oxygen. When the fire started, they had burned like paraffin. And so here. Everyone on the streets had caught fire and rushed around like torches. One could see that by the placement of the soot piles. The 6 old friends walked down together into the shadow of the eastern crater wall. Under a circular dark pink sky, they stopped at the first clutch of blackened bodies and then walked quickly on. They opened doors in buildings when it was possible and knocked on all the jammed doors and listened at the walls with a stethoscope device that Sachs had brought along. No sound but their own heartbeats, loud and fast at the backs of their coppery throats. Nadia stumbled around, her breath harsh and ragged. She forced herself to look at the bodies as she passed, trying to estimate heights from the black piles of carbon. Like Hiroshima or Pompeii. People were taller now. They still burnt to the bone, though. And even the bones were thin black sticks. I'm like, I can barely read. I have to like block the passage so I can't fucking see what's happening. They still burnt to the bone, though, and even the bones were thin black sticks. When she came to a likely-sized pile, she stood staring at it. After a while, she approached and found the right arm and scraped with her 4-fingered glove at the back of the charred wrist bones, looking for the dot code tag. She found it, cleaned it, ran her laser over it like a grocery store clerk, pricing goods. Emily Hargrove. She moved on. Oh my god, I feel like I'm gonna throw up. She moved on, did it again with another likely-sized pile. Thabo Moetti. It was better than checking teeth against dental records. It was better than checking teeth against dental records, but she wouldn't have done that. She was lightheaded and numb when she came to a soot pile near the city offices. Alone. Its right hand splayed out so that she only had to check She cleaned the tag and checked. Arkady Nikolaevich Bogdanov. I got excited when I saw the name. I glanced at the next page and I saw his name it's literally like the last sentence. I saw his name and I got excited. I thought he was gonna like, hello, my dear, you know, like bust out of the like a building or something with like one arm. Nope. No, it's a soot pile. It's a soot pile with the arm extended. Oh my god, he's fucking dead. And it's his own stupid fault. God damn it. He kept talking about the revolution. He thought it would all be fine. I gotta pee again. I'm gonna go rage pee. Thank you. Happy birthday, dude. It's my birthday. This is it, right? This isn't fair. This isn't good.